My name is BlueHead. It's November 7th, 2012, the day after. So many months have transpired so quickly, it seems. Our perception of time elapse is changed as we age. My grandfather explained it to me once in very broken Italian. When you're 2 years old, obviously, a year is half of your lifetime. So a year seems like forever. And I don't know if people are this introspective and this reminiscent, but if you think back on your childhood, it seemed like summers lasted forever. You get out of school at the end of May, at least we did in parochial school, and we didn't go back until after Labor Day. It seemed like half the year we had the entire summer to ourselves. We played in the ocean, we went out in the boat, we fished, we had adventures, we spent time with our families and our friends. We got in trouble as we got older, all the things you want to do to become a whole human being during your formative years. Well, as you get older, obviously a year constitutes whatever percentage of your lifespan a year happens to represent at the moment you're cognizant of that passage of time, that 365-day period of time. So at 60, which I'm not yet, but at 60 years old, a year is a 60th of your life, and therefore the perception of that time is that it goes back much quicker, because we've had 59 subsequent years before them, and they're just getting shorter and shorter and shorter. And of course, mathematically, the year hasn't changed in duration. Our perception of that time has changed. And so it goes with this election. It seemed like the previous 3 months were eternally slow, glacially slow in coming. The big crescendo, November 6th, when the voting came in, even that day went slow until they finally turned the corner in Ohio and made their predictions about the incumbent CEO of the U.S., Barack Obama. Congratulations, Mr. President, in winning his election. I was really taken aback by the calm and unemotional concession speech given by Mitt Romney. He seems to be a man of deep character and probably had already planned on his next course of action as a strategic thinker, because I believe he is that. I kind of think about today and the next 4 years, but I also am thinking about the next 50 years and the next 100 years, most of which I will not be present for, based on current medical technology, the limits of current medical technology and our species. The next 4 years, I think, are going to be markedly more robust from an economic point of view in the United States. And I believe that for no other reason except that the American people, or at least the American people who have traditionally been the drivers of this economy, have a short or a limited tolerance for being unproductive, the job creators. You can only be unproductive so long, and it starts to attenuate your soul. And when your soul begins to attenuate, you cease to thrive. The failure to thrive is the precursor to death. So those of us that have spent our lives manufacturing jobs for the people around us and for our own personal reasons, whatever they may be, are stepping up off of the bleacher, stopping are observing of the game and re-engaging. That is not a function of anything our presidential administrative branch in the United States government has done. That is a function of the individuality and the assertiveness in the job creators in this country. It really doesn't matter who's at the helm at this juncture. It doesn't matter for a lot of different reasons, but it mostly doesn't matter because the American people have shown a resilience and a depth of capacity for generating their own inertia. If we could somehow mimic the inertia generated by the American people, we would solve our energy demands overnight. Whatever that abstract formula is that gets us up 4 o'clock in the morning and keeps us going at midnight, still passionate about what we're doing, that abstract, intangible thing is what will drive the world in 100 years. I believe that. I believe that in my heart and in my soul, and I've been lucky enough to partake of that activity. I was born with that. I can't take credit for it. You know it when you're very young. You don't really know what it is. You can't identify it. It just happens. It just happens. And then you can step back and back into it and then understand it. That's just the way life works, or at least from my perspective. You know what you want, you figure out how to get it, and you do so within the boundaries of decency taught to you by your environmental surroundings, and you achieve. And it is that achievement that we seek, that we strive. The money that comes from that achievement is just a byproduct. Just a byproduct of achievement. What we're really after is the achievement itself. The money comes later, and it really is one of the least important byproducts. So let's look at the next 4 years. Well, let's narrow it down now because it's getting interesting. It's getting interesting for me personally, and it should be getting interesting for many Americans out there. It's getting interesting for me because regardless of who's in office, Democrat or Republican, this country has an imperative. We must become energy independent. There's no question about that. We're going to have an alternative energy source someday, but that day is not today. I've said that before. There's no big switch in the Oval Office that someone can turn on and off and say fossil fuel off, solar, hydro, pneumatic, nuclear on. There just isn't a switch. We are on fossil fuel right now. We will be for the foreseeable future. And based on the amount of natural gas we have in the Marcellus Shale in the Northeast, we're going to be on a fossil fuel for a long time as we develop alternate technologies. Of course we're going to do that. The first thing you learn in Marketing 101 is that General Motors is not a car maker. General Motors is not an automobile manufacturer. General Motors is in the transportation industry, macro scale. Transportation, not just cars. They make jet engines, they make trains, they make buses, they move human beings. However they need to do that, they're involved in that process. Well, the same goes for energy. They're not just in the oil business, they're in the energy business. And wherever that energy comes from, it would be incumbent upon them as smart business people, and they must be to get where they've gotten, to create an alternate energy source that does not include fossil fuel. If they're in the energy business, we need energy to function as a country and as a globe. They need a tool belt on their side. Some of it may be fossil, some of it may be nuclear, some of it may be hydrodynamic, some of it may be a completely unknown alternate source, hydrogen. I mean, there are endless potentials. But these energy companies, our oil companies, will find a way to solve this energy problem in some generation. Probably not mine, but certainly within the next 5. And fossil fuels will become less important than they are today. But today, November 7th, 2012, fossil fuels still carry the burden. They carry the burden to supply our power plants, give us electricity, and create all the products, the end-user products that we have in our lives. It's not going anywhere soon. So the assumption is going to be made that we're going to start drilling on the East Coast. And we're going to tap into this natural gas reserve, which has been correlated with and compared to the entire crude oil reserves of the Middle East or Saudi Arabia. That's a lot of fuel. Trillions of cubic feet of natural gas. The way they get it out of the ground, we discussed that in a previous installment yesterday and the day before. I actually published 2, I believe on the 5th, regarding hydrofracking, and we're going to do an entire series on hydrofracking and what it means, how it works, and why we have to do it safely. That'll come next. But right now, let's just make the assumption that we have an imperative to become energy independent, or at least more so. And our president is a couple steps too far ahead in that our oil companies are ready to provide. They have this commodity, they found it, they've delineated it, most of it. They know where it is, they know how to get it. We just have to work with them so that they get it out safely and to its end state requirement, powering whatever it is we need to power. So, whether you were for the election of Barack Obama or not, take heart. It really is insignificant. I personally believe he's a good and decent man. His heart is in the right place. He just lacks the proper skill sets. Well, he's had 4 years experience now. He's got 4 years of on-the-job training. I'm sure he's learned a lot. He's a little cynical. He's a little bit rough around the edges for me. He seems a little angry, but I think that'll pass because at his heart, I believe he's a good man. And I'm proud to call him my president. Any president of the United States is my president as well. So I salute you. I salute Mitt Romney as well for putting up a tremendous fight. It was a very exciting election. So let's get behind Barack Obama and let's push. Right? We're going to steer this thing where we want it to go. He may have some other agenda, but it's, as long as our Constitution stays intact and they don't dispose of the Constitution of the United States of America, we can't go wrong. Our jurisprudence, our sense of right and wrong, our sense of decency, and our interreliance on one another is what's going to get us through. And the job creators in this country are getting off the bench now, and they're going to work. The next 10 years are going to be magnificent. Absolutely magnificent. So prepare to enjoy your life. You'll get another installment tomorrow, and the day after that, and the day after that, and the day after that. Because this is my job, in addition to what I do for a living. It's time that I share what I know, and it's time that I seek what I don't know. So I'm going to need some interaction soon. You can reach all of my publications on YouTube, starting this past week, under the authorship of BlueHead 655. Stay tuned.